It's been revealed the state government knew that Delta was spreading rapidly from a birthday party in West Hoxton, but waited another 2 days before it locked down Greater Sydney. The information came from a parliamentary inquiry as Sydney enters week 12 of lockdown. Case numbers appear to be stabilising, but there is concern that vaccination rates are slowing. There were 1,257 new infections today. That's 5 fewer than yesterday. And another 7 people with COVID have died. Surprisingly, the news was delivered by the Premier just 1 day after what she said would be her last regular 11 a.m. appearance. State political reporter Ashley Raper has more.
A Premier with something to prove.
I was always scheduled to do today.
But her decision to call off the daily press conference stands.
I'm always available, but I won't necessarily be here every day at 11 a.m. Some weeks I might be here every day. Other weeks I might be here intermittently.
Today she needed to clarify remarks made hours earlier by her deputy. John Barilaro said while things won't open to the unvaccinated at 70% double dose, they will soon after.
You might have to wait another 3 to 4 weeks after that when we get to 80% and above.
I don't want people to think they can sit back, let everybody else do the hard work and then turn up when it's 80% and get everything else that vaccinated people are. That is not the right message.
The message from the Premier is get vaccinated and you'll be rewarded.
If you're not vaccinated, you will not have the freedom or the freedoms that vaccinated people have.
There's concern vaccination rates are slowing, as 78.5% of adults have had at least one shot. 12 to 15-year-olds now have access to.
I feel pretty good. It wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be.
All of my friends are just really keen to get vaccinated. They're just jab me.
There are 1,257 new cases and 7 more people have died, including 2 elderly men who caught the virus in aged care facilities. There are slightly fewer COVID patients in hospital, but the number needing intensive care is up to 222. Questions continue to plague the Premier as to how the state ended up in this situation. It's previously been revealed that in June, an infected person from the Bondi cluster went to a party in West Hoxton. And New South Wales Health didn't realise the extent of the spread from that event. But now a parliamentary inquiry has uncovered that authorities knew on June the 24th, and Greater Sydney wasn't locked down until 2 days later.
These are decisions we took based on the health advice. And again, there'll be people that said we went too hard and too soon. Others will say we were, not hard enough.
Mistakes will happen in a global pandemic. No one is expecting miracles, but clear communication and scrutiny of government decisions should be the minimum.
The opposition maintains that scrutiny is more important now than ever. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
Well, it wasn't exactly picnic weather today, but that didn't stop small groups of fully vaccinated families and friends gathering outdoors for the first time in months. For those outside the areas of concern, it was the first real taste of restrictions easing, although in hotspot areas there's still some way to go.
Coffee catch-ups came to a grinding halt in lockdown, but today they were back on the table.
The minute we could, we just said, OK, just let that routine just slip back in. We'll be down for coffee.
Groups of 5 can now gather outside, so long as you've had your second jab and don't live in a council of concern.
Prepared our camp chairs. We've got our vaccination certificates on hand, just in case.
In the dozen LGA hotspots, freedoms have been tweaked too. Outdoor recreation, including picnics, is back for vaccinated households for 2 hours a day.
Just to go out and eat with your family and just enjoy the natural air is so good.
But others feel separate freedoms only widen the divide across Sydney.
Very unfair. We've been under restrictions now since really the beginning, where it started in Bondi, and then you have people congregating at the beach, not wearing masks, no social distancing.
While there are signs case numbers are stabilising in some LGAs of concern, new infections in inner city suburbs like Redfern and Waterloo are causing alarm. Health authorities are especially worried about vulnerable communities living in high-density housing.
We don't want to see people who often might be marginalised or not have access to the same things we have access to.
But public housing residents in Waterloo say they feel like an afterthought.
We're a part of their imagination. They just ignore us. They send out a lot of information in letters But like I said, half the people down here, or a third of the people, can't even read those letters.
A disconnect in communication and a rise in cases, putting more people at risk. Cayman Gok, ABC News, Sydney.
And Cayman Gok joins us now from Parramatta. Cayman, there has been a development. The Premier will now meet with mayors from those areas of concern for the first time.
Juanita, the Premier's met with businesses here in Western Sydney, but for weeks has resisted talks with the leaders of the LGAs. That will now change. Gladys Berejiklian will hold a virtual conference with the 12 mayors tomorrow, many of whom are frustrated with the lack of communication and want to know why it's taken so long for the Premier to meet with them. Several of them will be calling for the curfew to be axed. The Burwood Mayor wants his LGA scrapped from the list completely as it continues to get only a handful of cases a day. The Cumberland Mayor wants more vaccination hubs and better equity of resources from authorities, while here in Parramatta, the Lord Mayor will be calling for more financial support to help his city rebound from this economic rut. Whether or not they will get everything they're asking for, we'll have to wait and see. But to quote one mayor I've spoken to, they'll be giving the Premier a piece of their mind. Juanita?
Cayman Gok reporting there. The Yass Valley Council area near Canberra will go back into lockdown for 2 weeks from midnight tonight. Just 3 days after coming out of lockdown, stay-at-home orders will now be in place for anyone who's been in the region since Thursday. A positive case of COVID has been confirmed in the community after a recent sewage detection. Elsewhere, the Illawarra Shoalhaven reported the highest number of regional cases today, with 27 new infections. There were 18 new cases in the Hunter New England region and 16 on the Central Coast. As well as that case in Yass, southern New South Wales has 3 new infections, all in Queanbeyan. The Western District reported 12 new cases, while the Far West had 7, including another 3 in Wilcannia. It's been revealed Aboriginal elders in Wilcannia tried to raise the alarm about the risks of a COVID outbreak a year ago, but say they were ignored by health authorities. A parliamentary inquiry has heard that community leaders told the state government an outbreak would be disastrous because of overcrowded accommodation. They told the inquiry the government has also failed to properly consult with Aboriginal medical services to protect the vulnerable.
Too little, too late. That's the verdict of elders on the camper van convoy that rolled into Wilcannia a week ago. The vans were sent to help COVID cases isolate, but the virus had already spread like wildfire among large Indigenous families living in overcrowded homes.
I feel heartbroken, angry, just like the community, to a slow response.
Would we have liked that to have been sooner? Certainly.
A parliamentary inquiry has been told elders saw the crisis coming a year ago, but authorities ignored their warnings to address overcrowding.
I felt at that time that nobody really listened. Nobody really cared what our opinion was, I felt.
More than 1 in 6 people in Wilcannia have now caught COVID. Cases are using the town's limited motel rooms and crisis accommodation, meaning women and children fleeing family violence are missing out.
There's nowhere for them to go.
The inquiry also heard that 18 months into the pandemic, the state's peak body for Aboriginal medical services is yet to have a meeting with the Health Minister or the Chief Health Officer. It says with the state poised to reopen, a meeting is now more vital than ever.
We want to make sure that our Aboriginal communities are fully vaccinated. Between 90 to 100% of our Aboriginal communities fully vaccinated before we reopen.
There have been conversations, to the best of my knowledge, and those conversations should continue.
The sooner the better for those most at risk. Sarah Geraghty, ABC News.
For those living near the Queensland border, there was some relief today as the border bubble was reinstated. Residents in areas including Ballina, Byron and Lismore are now able to cross into the Sunshine State for essential reasons, including work or school.
The border bubble is back, buoying those who have been shut out of the Sunshine State.
The first time we've been able to go to work in a month, and the kids have been they're coming to school for the first time.
It's been a challenge for him because they've been still going to school up there, all the other kids, and he's been having to stay at home.
Essential workers who have had their first vaccine dose and students from some council areas around the Queensland-New South Wales border can now freely travel for key reasons like school, work and healthcare. It's a relief for this large medical centre in Tweed Heads, which can welcome back much-needed staff.
Now we're here all to support the team and give the community the care that they need and our COVID vaccinations to get them back up and running at full pelt.
But a ban on recreational and social visits means there's no foot traffic for cafes and restaurants.
We're down about 70% for the month, and just a nightmare for everyone here. The border's only 200 metres away.
Please, please open the border up, get our tourists back, get our locals back.
There were no major delays on the roads, but frustrations flared at checkpoints as some drivers were turned away.
If you don't have the right paperwork and the right passes, our officers will turn you around.
Queensland Police have finalised their investigation into the 3 essential workers who crossed the border from New South Wales and sparked the state's latest Delta cluster. They found the 3 men travelled on valid border declaration passes and lawfully entered Queensland. Rachel Rieger, ABC News, Brisbane.